Marx's answer was, let's look at what humans really are. It's the same answer as Rousseau. What is man? And Marx looked quite sensibly at the latest anthropology and history and went back and said, if you look at man before modernity, man is a social animal, a herd animal. In the simplest societies, as they were being documented at that time, human beings had no property. You couldn't own anything. There was no law or way of saying this is mine, that's yours. So absolute communism. There were no classes. No one was above anyone else. Men, women, old, young, they were all equal. So a completely classless, propertyless, egalitarian subsistence. There was no alienation, because if you needed to live, you just went out and hunted something or picked some berries and you lived. So whatever you, and if you made something, it was yours. No one could take it away. There was no taxation. There was no state. And of course, there was no religion. I mean, you might believe in some various myths and so on, but there was no priesthood or anything like that, no formalized religion. That is the natural state of man, and that went on for hundreds of thousands of years. He wouldn't have known exact details, but basically the Paleolithic, from the first Homo sapiens right through to tribal society some 60, 80,000 years ago. No private property, no state, no classes, no priests. So that's who we are. And that was great. So now we're in chaos. So what should we do? And like all millenarians, he said, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the Garden of Eden, because the Garden of Eden is another account of the same thing. Basically, there is no property, there's no class system, there's nothing, there's not even God really, he's prowling around. But basically, it's wonderful because no problems, no alienation, nothing. So Marx's Communist Manifesto and all his writings are basically saying, how about we get rid of all those things that have happened in the last 10,000 years with civilizations in particular? And if you read Marxism, what is it about? No state, no class, no private property, no religion, no delusions. If we get rid of all those, and it's exactly the same, he's following Rousseau, same as Rousseau. If you get rid of your shackles, all these things, man will be free and lovey-dovey. So the prescription is to go back to the beginning and start again. And it all sounds great on paper. But my grouse with Marx is that the reason why he's the most destructive human who's ever lived, caused more deaths than perhaps almost anyone, maybe Genghis Khan is up there, I don't know. But basically, the amount of suffering that his well-intentioned, well-meaning prescription has caused. You're talking of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, people have died. Just take Chairman Mao's famines for one, 40 million, Pol Pot, etc., Stalin. And why did this well-meaning, kindly, ancient gentleman, bearded gentleman, cause the death of millions of people? And that's because this is a complete delusion. It's obvious to anyone who thinks about it that it's fine for if you're in the middle of a forest or a desert and there are a few dozen of you to behave like this. But if you've got 19th century Germany or Britain with advanced weaponry, factories, millions of inhabitants, an ancient system of writing, an ancient religious organization, powerful states and so on, and you say to them, get rid of everything, start again, back to year zero. You know, Orwell summarized it often. I mean, let's start again and get rid of the rulers. And what happens if you get rid of it? You don't get rid of the problem, which is how do you integrate people and how do you organize their lives and give them meaning and so on. The problem is still there, but you get rid of the means to do it. And what happens is if you level a field and cut down everything, it's not that it just becomes a lovely meadow if you leave it. Things grow up again, and the things that grow up are very often worse than the things that were there before. So that the revolutions, the French Revolution, oh, well, let's start again, let's get rid of everything. You end up with a bloodbath. The Russian Revolution, oh, well, let's get rid of everything, let's start again. You end up with Stalin. China, oh, well, let's start all over again. And you end up with the great leap forward in the Cultural Revolution. Oh, well, Pol Pot, let's get rid of the intellectuals and all class. And you end up with mass genocide. So it doesn't solve the problem. It's a millenarian dream.